Hello to absolutely everybody out there. My name's Oliver Mammon, and apparently I am alone today, which is kind of fun. So it's just me and you guys. So, hi, welcome to the show. The show's called the ABC of CBD, and it's your comprehensive guide to everything you ever need to know about CBD and other cannabinoids. Now, I don't know if you've tuned in over the last couple of weeks. It's been like a lot of information. It's been a bit mental, but it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. And Russ has arrived.
I'll tell you something, Mr. Ollie Mammon of the Tincture Club. There's nothing like your laptop going on the fritz just before you're about to do a show. Anyway, I apologize for being about 20 seconds late. Please accept my deepest apologies.
It's completely cool, man. It's completely cool. I think it's one of those days. I gave a really nice introduction, though, which is cool. Like, I was be honest. Did you ever see the film Wayne's World?
Just about a million times.
Fine. So you know Wayne's World, when Wayne's World 1, when Wayne has a fight with the character played by Rob Lowe, and he like storms off and Garth is left on screen by himself, and he goes, like, hello. I literally felt a little bit like Garth there for a second. I didn't really know how to kind of introduce myself.
No.
Thank you so much.
I absolutely wouldn't. I wouldn't let you down. But you see, it's proved. It's proved you can step up to the plate.
Good man. So yeah.
Anyway,
it's been one of those days, Russ. I kind of woke up this morning to my dog who was sick.
Well, that's a good start. That's a good start.
Well, it's not really a good start. I woke up to
you woke up this morning,
and it's been a bit manic.
Why was that?
My doggy,
into the show. Why?
My doggy's ill.
Oh no! Oh no! So's mine.
See, I don't know what it is. It's like he's like I had to take him to the vet. They took him in for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's strange with COVID at the moment because they do the tests and they'll come out to you, and it's a little bit like, you're getting your dog's diagnosis by pen pal. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you can't really see what they're actually doing.
I know.
So that's
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Yeah, I was at the vet's only the other day this week. Anywho, let's crack on with the mighty ABC of CBD, live and exclusive here on Men's Radio Station, 100% live, as you've just noticed, 100% uncensored, with the force of nature that is Ollie Mammon.
What's up, guys? So over the last 2 weeks, we've covered a lot. This is episode 3. So thank you so much for everyone who has joined us over the last few weeks and anyone who continues to join us. If you want to wish my doggy or Russ's doggy better, you can put it in the comment section. Trust me, my Rusty or Russ's. Russ, what's your dog called?
Ebony.
So my Rusty or Russ's Ebony. Do you know what I mean? Like, wish them better.
It'd be confusing if my dog was called Rusty, because everyone would think I'd be talking about myself.
No, my dog's called Rusty, though.
So no, I know, if my dog was called Rusty, that would be just a nightmare.
The dog came before Russ. Or maybe Russ came before the dog, but I mean, in my life, I mean.
Yeah.
So last week was very much about, understanding your receptors, and we went into a little bit into other details and other ingredients which can be used in drops and how they can potentially make a massive difference to a product when you take it, and how it's not only about the CBD, it's about a lot of these other ingredients which are added, especially in this oversaturated market at this moment of time. This week, I want to kind of continue onto that subject. So the subject of knowing your drops and understanding what you're taking, but I want to go a little bit more into the detail of the CBD. Now, one thing I've realized with all users is users talk in terms of drops. So I use CBD. I have about 3 drops a night. So if you go back to the first episode when I spoke to Russ about the drops I made him, he said, I had a few drops. Now, the problem is a drop means nothing. A drop is a volumetric measurement. It's a something, but it's what's contained in the drop, which actually means something to the end user. You can have a drop with 1.66 milligrams in it, or you could have a drop with 48 milligrams in it, and it makes a big difference. A drop is about 0.05 grams. Okay, there's about 20 drops in every mil in every gram. So it's about creating and understanding the equation of what's actually in your bottle of drops. Now, one thing which I first realized, this was the start of my journey, going back 6 years, 7 years, my first CBD product I bought was just CBD oil. There wasn't a milligram dosage. There wasn't a percentage breakdown. The extract used inside of it, people weren't clear about it. And what happens is I was very much, I knew I was taking CBD, but I didn't know how much. Now, I knew from that bottle, I needed about 25 drops. Now, I don't know if that 25 drops was 25 milligrams or 125 milligrams. Now, looking back at it, I also don't know if there was any other cannabinoids in there, if there were other terpenoids in there or something else which gave a direction or gave an effect to the final product. So when we design a product at Taylor Mammon, what we do is we create something called mathematically accurate products. Now, I don't want to say bullied about this, but this is a term which I throw around a lot. You know, I talk about mathematical accuracy and is your product mathematically accurate? And other people in the industry will, you know, like it's like a joke, you know, or you're Mr. Mathematical Accuracy, but it means a lot. And there's mathematical accuracy when manufacturing and producing, and then there's mathematical accuracy when using. It's not about taking 5 drops of a CBD oil. It's about knowing exactly what those 5 drops equate to. So one day when you're in another part of the world and you don't have your CBD drops, you can go and buy something which is a like for like replacement. Or if you buy something completely different, you know how much you need to take in order to reach your level of satisfaction. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And I want to, it's not fun, but it's like a little math lesson. We're going to try and make it fun, but it's a math lesson because at the end of the day, like percentages, volumes, milliliters, milligrams, it all gets quite confusing. You know, I'll be honest with you, even as a manufacturer, I get confused. I'm having a bit of an off day today, and I know I'm having an off day because math that I do on a daily basis, when I was trying to reverse engineer it to be able to explain like a mathematical equation, I was finding it really hard. And I know I was finding it hard because my mind is all over the place, like I said, with the dog and everything. So if I'm not as coherent as I have been in previous episodes, please forgive me, and I will recover things if I'm not as good as I have been in past weeks.
Don't worry. Never show how the magic is done.
Fair play. How are you, Russ?
No, I'm good. I'm all right. Thank you. I'm okay. Hey, I'm still here.
Exactly.
That's my thing. You know, that's my thing. People say, "How are you?" I go, "Well, I'm still here." And they go, "Well, okay." And that's about as good as we're going to get. You know, that's about it. I can deal with that. I can deal with that. And you look well, and you're okay. And things at Taylor Mammon are going well. Now, you used a couple of terms. We know what cannabinoids are. You used another term. Just to recap, I know you've mentioned it a lot of times, but if people are just joining the show for the first time, hello, welcome. You used another term, which has gone straight out of my head. What
Terpenoids?
was it? Terpenoids. Thank you. Which for me is something you clean a paintbrush with.
Yeah, so basically, terpenoids are basically things you clean the paintbrush with, but they're not really. So,
I was kidding.
So a terpene is you could say a fragrance extract or an oil extract from a plant. So, for example, lavender is known to help people sleep, but the compound in lavender which actually helps people sleep is lilanol. Lilanol is a terpene. Okay. Now, I had no idea. Why you think of cleaning products is, let's say, citronine and limonene are 2 very, very, very potent cleaning products. But if you take a citronine from an organic orange, or you take a limonene from like a lemongrass, it's a much more refined extract. And what happens is in a cannabis plant and in a hemp plant, you also have these terpenes, similar sorts of terpenes. So you will find limonene in its own form in a cannabis plant. You'll find lilanol, you'll find mycene and other terpenes which have effects. Now, there's an incredible company based in Israel called Ebner. We do a lot of business with them. They're based in the Technion, which is like the Technion's university in Israel, which focuses a lot of energy into cannabis research. And they're like an institution which focuses a lot of energy into cannabis research. And this company, they research the directional capabilities of different, you could say, extracted oils. So when they talk about terpenes in a cannabis plant, they talk about it almost being like the driver of the car. So you have the cannabinoid, which does something, but the something it does, the direction it goes, is based on the terpene which it's surrounded by, which is directed by. So you have terpenes which are uplifting, you have terpenes which are subduing, you have terpenes which are relaxing and calming, you have terpenes which are energizing, and it's about finding the right direction. So I mean, like, we've got a little bit of show and tell before we move into the math, and we've got like a few things which I want to discuss. To kind of just carry on your understanding of cannabinoids and what they do, and carry on your understanding of what's actually inside of your product.
And a slight detour, as is my way. Nice. Why is it that lavender, you get sprays, and sometimes I spray it on the pillow. Why is it that it helps you go to sleep?
It's the lilanol. Okay, so it's the.
And what is the lilanol? So you're lying on your pillow and you start to get dozy, but what's happening to you as a person?
Honestly, in all honesty, that question will be better answered by the terpene experts when we get them on the show.
Okay.
Like the actual.
I'm hoping his name's Dick. That would be genius. Dick Terpene.
Who's Dick Terpene?
Come on.
I'm a young dude. Bear that in mind. 32 years old.
But yeah, he was in the 1700s. So
okay, fine.
You're not even on him.
Don't know him personally. Is he on
the
Instagram?
Highwayman? Huh? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's the way my mind works. Dick Turpin. All right. Okay.
I feel bad now.
Why?
Because like you've thrown out something. And
no, it was a stupid. It was a stupid
it's
gag.
Not stupid.
Because it was. Now then. Okay.
Fine. So, Dick Terpene, where were we? So you've got this terpene dude come on. He'll be able to explain to you how lilanol actually affects the brain. I believe it's something to do with calming receptors and stuff like that. So or have something to do with the compounds in your brain which are produced as and when you go to sleep. This terpene will somehow affect an overproduction of these compounds which help you go to sleep.
It is very calming though, isn't it? It's not a myth. Calming. There is something about the lavender which is not just a lovely smell, but it's very relaxing and soothing, and it kind of settles you down. It's a weird thing.
I've been watching this strange documentary on Netflix, and it's called Unwell or Well. Unwell. I think it's well with in inverted brackets in brackets before it. Yeah. And it's like, I've only watched a couple of the episodes. I watched the one on essential oils, and I watched the one on ayahuasca. Okay, don't ask me. I'm not into that. I was just curious about it. And the one on essential oils, they were talking about, there was a study done in America somewhere. I should have written this down. Somewhere they did a study in America, and they took a whole bunch of pharmaceutical grade anti-anxiety medication and a whole bunch of like herbology, homeopathy, lavender-based capsules. And they took two sample groups of people who suffered from anxiety. They gave one group the pharmaceutical, one group the lavender capsule, and they showed like equal levels of reduction in anxiety and stress. So there is a lot of research out there to show that lavender and lilanol as a compound do have that sort of calming therapeutic effect, which people do require when they go to sleep. I can do more research and come back to you next week as to exactly how it works. I just know it does. Do you know what I mean? Like, I focus on how cannabinoids work. That's what I do. It's just nice to know for what if you need to create a product to help someone go to sleep, a little bit of lilanol or a lavender overtone can really help someone. So it's good to know that. But the actual processes, I'm a bit lost on.
There's something that crossed my mind, Ollie, and I think it's growing in my mind as well. Is that you are going to become, whether you like it or not, increasingly important. And the reason I say that is because no. Don't, I know your dog's not well. My dog's not well, but put that to one side and take this as it's meant. Because people are so stressed and people are so full of anxiety about their health, about missing their families, which I am missing them like crazy, like missing their friends, which all of us are doing, are worried about work, worried about, especially in all industries. I'm not just going to say the entertainment and the arts because everybody else has been hit. And people like yourself, Ollie, people will be turning to you because not everyone can live on antidepressants forever. And not everybody can, just try and drink to forget their troubles. They will need, it's absolutely my belief,
especially
the deeper we go into this, we need people like you. And I think we're damn lucky at Men's Radio to have you, and for you to be there to guide us, all of us, because it's a journey for me. I'm no expert, as has been totally apparent. But I think, what you're going to be doing is paramount, is very important.
Well, listen, I'm here to help, man. And the one thing I've realized over this time is that if you didn't have mental health issues before, you've definitely got them now. As someone who suffered for a very long time with mental health issues, I find that, look, I feel those kicks in the, let's call them the kick in the groin. I feel those kicks in the groin a hell of a lot more than I used to. And, the dark clouds and stuff, I feel them a hell of a lot more than I used to.
Of course.
And it's a very, very strange time. A very strange time.
And that's why we need, it's not nice, it's horrible. And that is why we need all the help that we can get. And I think that people will stop thinking this as these are not my words, these might be what people think, like some sort of fringe luxury or a little bit, San Francisco 1966. I don't think it's going to be that. I think this is going to be mainstream. And I think people are going to be turning to it more and more, which is why we are proud at Men's Radio to have said, this is the show we want.
So you talk about this fringe luxury. So so I'm feeling a little bit off today. I felt a little bit anxious before the show, and I actually went downstairs and I just thought, just in case I'm not feeling good during the show, I went outside and just picked up a bottle of drops. All right, I've got actually two here because I don't like the flavor of these ones, but I picked them up anyway. Right. And I literally just went downstairs. I picked up drops. I came up to Hannah and go, how lucky am I that I've literally got everything I need just there for me. And the problem is, you talk about this fringe luxury. The problem is with cannabinoids is that they're very expensive. Okay, they're expensive. You've got this product which sells for £65 for a small bottle in the shops. The Tincture Club is not that price. I hate to plug it, but
you should plug it. You should mention it, because otherwise
it's very affordable. So we sell 1,000 milligram tinctures when you're buying them in 4s. Okay, for £15 a pop. If that's not affordable, I don't know what is. 1,000 milligrams is what's it called? Like for me, it would be around I don't know, say 30 milligrams a dose, 35 doses. So like 35 days of calmness for 15 quid. It's a pack of cigarettes you're smoking a day, and that costs you 16. A beer costs you 3 in the shops, 7 in a pub. A gin and tonic's 12 quid. So I'm just saying. So it's actually an affordable product. And in fact, the matter is if you do have anxieties or issues like that, it's what I suffer with, and it's how I medicate myself. I would say give it a shot before you turn around and say, look, it's too expensive, or it's not. I can't maintain it. I don't know if it's for me. You don't know if something's for you until you try it.
But people can always maintain a bottle of wine. Amazingly, they can always maintain a pack of cigarettes.
They can always maintain a takeout dinner which costs 50, 60 quid. But I know. But I understand. But our health is more important than anything. And the fact of the matter is as someone who's put a lot of money into his health recently, I feel a lot better for doing it. As in, the mental anxieties which disappear when you just try and take care of your mental anxieties. The step towards helping yourself is the number one step, and then everything else after that is just a bonus. But I would honestly say to everyone, if you really, really do feel off, before you try pharmaceuticals, and if therapy and yoga and that stuff hasn't worked, this is a healthy middle ground. And I'm not saying try it forever if it doesn't work, but try it for a couple of weeks. If it makes a difference, good. If it doesn't, you're 15 quid out of pocket. It's not the end of the world, and if you feel better, great. If you don't. But the main thing is a perfect segue point. It's all about what you actually need. So like I said to Russ, I made Russ take 75 milligrams to get to sleep. I make buddies of mine, I teach them that they need about 35 milligrams for post-sport recovery. I've got people who, use a hell of a lot more and a hell of a lot less for loads of different reasons. And what happens is they want to accurately measure what they're taking on a daily basis. So this episode today is really about helping you understand what you're actually taking. And it's important for you to know as well, you know, what your friends are taking, what's working for them. And if they don't know, it enables you to kind of figure it out. So let's start with extracts. So I've got some samples of extracts which I brought on the show because the easiest way to teach you what's in your product is to show you. Yeah. So let's start from the purest and work our way down. It's the easiest way. Okay, so this little jar, which looks like flour. There we go. This little jar which looks like flour. So this is CBD isolate. Okay, this is 99.9% pure CBD. There is nothing else in that except CBD, maybe like residual waxes, but I mean, it's just CBD. There are no other cannabinoids. There are no terpenoids. There are no flavonoids. There are no waxes and lipids. There's no residual plant matters. There's no fear of failing a drug test. There's nothing like that. Now, the Tincture Club uses this. It uses pure CBD because it wants to be a mathematically accurate product, which is easy to dose with. So we'll move on to the math in a bit, but this is what the Tincture Club uses. And to be honest with you, since I've started in this industry, my go-to products for myself have always used isolates because I know what I'm getting with them. All right, so that's isolated CBD. I was going to mention a brand name, but you can buy all of these extracts from Taylor Mammon. We're like the most affordable distributor on the planet. So you can call us and we can get you all of these extracts with certificates of analysis from farms and stuff like that. All right, now let's move on. This, and we're going to talk a bit more about this. This here, this is what they call a broad spectrum distillate. All right, as you can see, it's got like yellowy sort of crystals.
Looks like ginger.
Right, there we go.
Looks like crystallized ginger that my grandmother loved.
Yeah, that's it. It looks a little bit like candy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It looks like candy orange. But yeah, so this is I'll get a little nug out if I can. So this is it's an amalgamation. So there's more than just CBD in that. So if you buy a broad spectrum extract, all right, you're not just getting CBD. So CBD is that's CBD. That will have CBD in it about 85%. And then it will have lipids and fats and residual plant matter and waxes and terpenes and flavonoids and loads of other cannabinoids. So, I mean, in this one, I asked them to send me a COA. I'm just going to read it to you. I mean, the amount of different extracts in here is literally insane. So in this one, you've got, in this extract, you've got CBD about 84.6%. You've got no THC. You've got some CBN, about 0.05%. You've got CBC, about 0.1%.
Right.
You've got CBE at about 3.2%. And then you've got a whole bunch of other, like 10% of unknowns. Now, when they talk about, last week we had this someone made a comment that there's about 450 different different cannabinoids inside of a cannabis extract. A lot of these cannabinoids are not even known. So you have places like the Technion, and you have people like Dedi Meiri, all right, who's like a scientific god in our industry. I mean, like if there was a messiah of cannabis in today's world, this dude is like the messiah. He is a genius, and he spent like literally his whole life basically researching cannabis and, you know, different cannabinoids and what they actually do. And he's identified cannabinoids which people had no idea existed. He basically carried on the work. His predecessor was a dude called Raphael Mechoulam, also based in Israel. Now, Raphael Mechoulam discovered cannabinoids. He was the first person to identify THC and CBD and CBN and all of these cannabinoids. He was the first one to identify them.
When was that?
Late 70s, early 80s in Israel.
Okay. Yep.
And this dude is like between both of them, you're talking about like great granddaddy and granddaddy of cannabis rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? I mean, these guys are just incredible people. And what they do and what they have done is just done a lot of research into what these cannabinoids do and what different terpenes do and what all these different small parts of this cannabis plant do and what else there is there. So they are almost, cannabis explorers that will look into a cannabis plant. And they've identified things in small microscopic portions, which they don't even know what it is. They know it's there and they know that it's shown up in different places. But like he said, how are you going to give a name to something that you don't know what it is?
So is that it's a little bit like the scientists who study the universe. Some of it is theoretical because they can't see some of it. And I think that's what's...
Yeah, they know it's there.
They know it's there, but they don't know how it works yet.
Exactly. And
I see a parallel there.
But this dude is incredible. Like, they're actually incredible. And what they do is they enable people like me to know what we're working with. So what happens is when they discover a cannabinoid, they've recently discovered something called THCP and CBDP. And THCP, even though it sounds like the thing you would put on the scratch and scrape when you were a kid, okay?
Oh, yes, TCP.
Yeah, that's it. THCP is apparently like 3,000 times more potent than THC, and CBDP is 3,000 times more potent than CBD. And they found that all cannabis plants which have THC also have THCP, and they're potentially thinking that THC might not do what we think it does. THCP might do what we think THC does, because in the microscopic amounts it's in, it would have that powerful effect, and THC does something completely different. But fact of the matter is we are beholden to the information we're provided, and organizations like this spend the hard work and the hard time figuring out what these compounds do, so we can best apply them to people out there like you. And it's pretty incredible.
Let me wind it back for a sec. Just for a second. Hold up the white, the one that looked like baking powder. How would you, this is the absolute 101 most basic question. How would you get the contents of that little jar? Where does that, yes, exactly.
So that's it. I didn't talk about it. So this is hemp. So basically all the extracts I'm going to show you are all hemp extracted extracts. Okay, so what happens is you take a whole bunch of hemp biomass. Biomass is harvested hemp crop. You take a whole bunch of harvested hemp crop and you pass it through a CO2 extraction machine. Okay, and through CO2 extraction, it isolates and extracts the CBD, and then it passes through crystal precipitation in order to clean it. Crystal precipitation is a little bit like distillation in reverse. So distillation is when you heat up extracts and they separate off at different temperatures upwards, and crystal precipitation is when you cool them down and then they separate off on the way down.
So, but you would have to get that in. You don't actually make.
No, well, I don't make any extracts. We buy them all in, because what happens is farms very often, especially in the last few years, a lot of farms have jumped on the bandwagon. So you have a lot of people out there who are in this I produce cannabinoids business. But the problem is when so many people get involved in the industry, you have this whole thing of supply and demand. Supply goes through the roof, demand stays steady, and price drops. So we always had an idea from the beginning that, when we first bought CBD, it was £50,000 a kilo. Now we buy it for about 5, okay, with change. So I mean,
it's gone from 50,000 to 5,000.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, if we're buying in bulk, we can get it a hell of a lot cheaper. I mean, the price of CBD has come down dramatically. Hence why, let's say the tincture club is a 1,000 milligram tincture for 15 to 25 pounds. And the average 1,000 milligram tincture on the shelf is 65 pounds, because it represents where the price was. Now, over the last 4 or 5 years, the price has gone from 50 to 40 to 30 to 20 to 10 to 7 to 5, and it just keeps on coming down. We got offered extracts last week at like $2,500 a kilo. It's different. We're getting offered isolate for that price. Distillate's on its way down. I mean, we have a supplier of distillate who was charging us like $8,000, and we've just been offered the same distillate for like 4. The price is heavily coming down, which we're trying to make
because of this. I'm going to say
oversupply and under demand. Because what happens is the market's still very uneducated. If everyone knew about CBD, we wouldn't be able to even do a show like this. And it's this shows to help people understand that CBD can be affordable, and CBD doesn't have to be that extortionate product that's on the shelf in Harrods for £1,000. You can buy it for 20 quid, and it's exactly the same product as the £1,000. It really is. And what you've got to do is you just got to, you've got to try it and use it. Like someone who spends more money on something is not getting something better in this marketplace. And it's important we realize that, because at the end of the day, this market's all about the users. You started off with 25 sellers, all of whom wanted to supply a product to end users who really needed it. And now you have like 1,000 brands who are trying to produce products to earn money, but it's not about the money. It's about the end user. It's about all the people listening or not listening, or all the friends of the people listening or not listening, who actually use this product, who think it could be cheaper, who need it to be more affordable for their actual consumption, who want to actually be able to use 8 quid's worth a day. And if that 8 quid worth was only 2 quid's worth, they could actually do it. But 8 quid's actually a lot of money on a yearly basis. And it's quite nice, like it's nice to be almost part of that change, to be able to kind of bring the price of CBD down. Because I'm a user, I know what it's like to not be able to afford what you actually need for yourself, and not be able to get it. I mean, like I said, like my biggest problem, my biggest problem in this industry when I first came into it, as a user, was what is in my product. Like what am I actually paying for? I'm paying 50 quid for a bottle. I've got no idea what's in it. Now you don't have that. You have transparency. You have this ability to see a COA, have a COA explained to you, understand what extract's being used, understand the cost price of that extract. So full well we buy for 5 and we sell for 15. I mean, how much money are we making on you when we manufacture and bottle and ship and distribute and store? I mean, you get to understand that it's actually more about you than it's ever been about anyone else. It's important. It's important.
And also the role that you have is to be able to, you walk into a store and you buy off the shelf, you don't know what the hell you're getting. If it doesn't work, but you're going to go talk to the person behind the counter, because they're not going to know. Probably. But and I'm sorry if this sounds like a naked plug, but why not? If they get it from you and they go, Ollie, I'm not sleeping, it's still not working, you're going to have a proper conversation with them, and you're going to adjust it. You're going to adjust it so that it does work, and you will work with your client. You know what? I'll be honest with you. I know it's the term, but I'm really uncomfortable with the term user. It always makes me think of somebody kind of, shooting up in an alley. It's not. I know that's the phrase. It's the phrase, but it's. I'd like to say client.
Client. I like the word client.
Client.
And also, look, the whole point we're trying to produce a transparent service that you don't. I say you don't even need guidance. The whole point is if you have my head, you don't need my head. So, if you have all the information that's in here, you don't actually need access to the person who has it. So that's what we're trying to do. Of course, I'm always here to help, but I really want you guys, because also at once, like I said from the first episode, it's not about buying my product. It's just about knowing what you actually need as a consumer. That
is true. But, and I can't help it. I have an advertising background, but it's true. But unless they try, they won't know, because then you're discussing something which is in the abstract, rather than saying, I gave this a go. I can see what it does or what it doesn't do. So I'm keen on it. I would use another in my own simple mind, because this isn't my field. You're the expert. You're probably the leading expert in the UK on this, and I am absolutely not. But when I talk, in the days when we had a life,
I love it when you say that so much.
Yeah, but it's true. But when in the days before everyone went mad and we had a life, and I'd go to the Soho Whiskey Club, which is a wonderful little place above a shop in Old Compton Street, right? And if you just go up, actually, the more I think about it, it's quite an accurate analogy. If you just go, there's how many bottles? There's 5,000 open bottles of whiskey in the Soho Whiskey Club. 5,000. So if you walk in and say, "Give me a whiskey," or "Hello, George," who runs it, "I'd like a whiskey." He's not going to turn around and just choose at random from the 5,000 bottles and hope you like it. He would say, "What sort of whiskey do you like?" Now, only with experimentation do I know what I really like and what I absolutely can't stand, what makes me feel good and what makes me think that I'm drinking medicine.
Are you a Scottish, Irish, or American man?
I'm all of it, as long as it doesn't have any peat content.
Yeah, I can't
bear peat.
That's why I stay away from the Scottish.
But
so
if you go to Islay and the Isles and some of that, it's like you've kind of dug into the earth and put whatever you got in your garden into a glass. to me, it's awful. Yet
I
my
can't handle it.
two closest friends, the peatier, the better. So my analogy is you wouldn't just go and say, hey, I want a whiskey. Anymore, you say, I want a CBD or what type.
Exactly.
And only by that, having that conversation and learning, as I did with whiskey, single malts, do you make some progress?
This is something else I wanted to actually say, and you've just reminded me. It's on like page 5.
Okay.
So I'm a dude. I never mix ice with my whiskey. All right, I was raised that you don't mix ice with your whiskey.
Yeah, neither do I actually.
Whiskey. However, there are some people who mix ice with their whiskey. There are some people who mix Coke with their whiskey. There are some people who mix, apple juice with their whiskey. Why? Because they actually prefer it. Now, the same way that no one's allowed to tell you how to drink your whiskey, no one's allowed to tell you how to use your CBD. So very often I found that people are like, he told me just to take 2 drops. So I did 2 drops and it didn't help. So why didn't you take more? Well, I was told I need to take 2 drops. But then fact of the matter is no one's there to tell you, is they're advising you, don't add ice, only take 2 drops. But fact of the matter is, if you want to add ice, if you want to add Coke, if you want to throw it in a blender in a smoothie, you can do that. And if you want to take 5 drops or 10 drops, or if you want to reverse it and only take 1 drop because that's what works for you, that's absolutely fine. Drinking whiskey is a very personal thing, which other people's rules have governed. And I got to the point now where I don't go and drink whiskey with people because they'll look at me like, oh, you have to put 3 ml of water in that. I was like, why do I have to put 3 ml of water? It's are you mental? It's whiskey. I want 2 fingers worth. I want to drink it quick whilst I smoke a cigarette. You know what I mean? Pretend like I'm a cowboy. That's literally what I want. I want to drink my bourbon. And if it's not from Kentucky, you can't call it bourbon.
Whoa, wait a minute. This has nothing to do with CBD. Do not call bourbon whiskey.
I never called bourbon whiskey.
You just said you want to drink your bourbon.
I want to drink my bourbon.
Ah, well, I like bourbon too. Tell me something. This is just curious because I like to get to know you even better as you're one of my favorite broadcasters. When you walk in, do you make them slide up the drink like they do in the Westerns and you grab it from one end of the bar and you grab it?
I haven't been to a bar in like 9 months.
I know it's pathetic.
I have been in bars before and I'm like, slide down the bar. And
they'll never do it. I don't even want to say when this is over because I can't take much more of this, to be honest, because it is driving everybody up the pole. We'll go to the Soho Whiskey Club and you will have your mind officially blown. It's a little tiny place, but with having 5,000 bottles open, you can have whatever you want. And it's great.
It must be incredible.
Well, it's nice. It's relaxing, which is all about really what this is about as well. It's not just but relaxing, but when we had the first big reaction to you, so many people saying, I take this, it helps with my cancer. I take this, it helps with my knee pain. I take this because of my excruciating back pain. People are looking for answers. They don't always want pharmaceuticals.
No, of course. And to be honest with you, as the world goes on and, we can't get hold of doctors anymore. I mean, this is the mental thing. I mean, like my girlfriend, I take to the doctor on Monday, she thought she had a hernia. Okay, she called a GP. GP didn't want to do anything, so she went private. She paid through the arse, but she had to do it to make sure that she was all right. She had no idea what was going on. And I've got a buddy of mine who's gone through something horrible the last few months. He went to a doctor, and the doctor's exact words were, if it wasn't COVID, we'll deal with it. But it's COVID, so you've got to wait a couple of years. And he was like,
a couple of years?
A couple of years. And he was like, yeah, you got wait a couple of years, make sure it's okay. He goes, but I can die. And the doctor was like, yeah, you're probably not going to die. And it's got to that point now, I was like, what's going on? Like literally what is going on?
This is a conversation for another day. I will simply say this.
You heard one with the cancer patients over COVID, right? That
it's shocking.
Everyone on chemo got put on the pill. Do you hear about this? And that anyone who was getting the chemo drip got put on the pill. Like literally, it was just a standard. You're getting your pill at home now. I mean, it's freaking insane. There's no comfort. There's no governing. There's no one watching over you unless they're cutting you open and they can schedule you. It's a mental time. It's crazy time. If anyone needs help, please reach out.
This is why what we're trying to do on women's radio station and here on men's radio station. We feel not the word besieged, but we suddenly feel kind of responsible because we can't stand what's going on. We look around and we think this simply isn't right. It is. I'm going to be very controversial. Please forgive me. It's not the COVID NHS. It's the NHS. And when I read endlessly from people who are writing to me privately, they've got heart problems, they've got cancer and they're not getting the treatment, this is the route to madness.
But the worst thing is that you can't even get a call. So I mean, like, even for it sounds really messed up, even for the super fortunate people who have private health cover, they still need to speak to a GP before that private health cover kicks in, which means you still need to get that phone call from a GP and be like, look, I think I've got like serious arthritis in my hands. You can't get that phone call. You can't get that meeting. So I'll be honest with you, my entire left arm has just been burning for around 4 months, and I'm just waiting to be able to see my doctor, to be able to go to my private health.
Have you thought about moving away from the radiator?
Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. No, it's a crazy time. And I feel like everyone's also in that mentality of, you know what, let's put my health to the side for 1 second, because there are people out there who actually, they need to be taken care of. Now, there's a massive community out there of other people. There's a massive, sorry.
The COVID people are being taken care of. It's the rest of the it's the 99% of the rest of the population who are going, what about my cancer? What about my coronary problems?
It's the vulnerable person comment. So I'm sure when you call it, are you a vulnerable person? And then what happens is you're put on the spot. I'm not a vulnerable person. They're like, well, unfortunately, if you're not a vulnerable person, we can't see you. And then it's just like, okay, cool. I completely get that. Who am I to take, your time away from someone who actually needs it? But then that's mental that, like, we live in a world where, people are putting their issues to the side and living with them. And there are a lot of people with mental health issues who are basically locked away in rooms, not getting the help they need. All of these mental health charities are not getting the funding they need. And people are literally being left.
It's a vicious circle, because that all the revenue streams to every charity has gone down the toilet. It's gone.
So sad.
It's so shocking. It's shocking. And that's going to affect the research. It's going to set everything, which is why, coming back in a rather circuitous route, big circly route, is you're important. This is what I was that's really just the point I was trying to make. This is an alternative.
I think there are a lot of people out there with a lot to help. And over the next few weeks, we're going to meet a lot of people who have actually gone through journeys. And what will happen is it won't just be me talking at you guys. It will be, people turn around saying, this was my journey. This is what I've gone through. And I really hope that over the next few weeks, you guys can almost learn a bit more from people who have been in your situation, almost had to figure it out for themselves.
Very powerful way of communicating, Ollie, because I know from experience when Phil, Dave and myself, and when our other presenters have people who've suffered from mental illness, people who have attempted suicide, and they tell their story, it's so emotionally powerful, and it resonates with our listeners all over the world. And so when you're going to get these folks on and they're going to talk about it, I think you'll be quite pleasantly surprised at the reaction that you're going to get, because people want to know. Right. Back to your notes, because I know you are a ferocious note maker. So.
Exactly. So we've got like 17 minutes left. So I just want to try and get a little bit of this done. Okay, fine. So another extract, also a broad spectrum distillate.
Hang on, let's see. Okay.
All right, it looks different.
What am I looking
at? That was the one we saw before.
All right, so the one, it looks like my late grandmother's ginger that she used to like crystallized fruit. And this is what? What's in there?
This is also another type of distillate. Okay, so another like broad spectrum distillate. So both of these, where are they here? Both of them are broad spectrum distillates.
Okay.
Both. Now, what happens is when you buy a product, which is a broad spectrum distillate CBD product, all right, you could be getting this, or you could be getting this, or you could be getting this in your product. Now, all three of them look completely different.
What am I looking at here? This
is a syringe of FICO. This is a full extreme cannabis extract.
Okay.
FICO, full extract cannabis oil. It actually comes from hemp. It's 16% CBD. All right, so what happens is you have these full spectrums, you have these broad spectrum extracts. And when you buy a broad spectrum CBD oil, it can contain any of them. But the issue is they're all made for different things. They've been made by God, all right, or a geneticist somewhere, or a farmer, All right, they've been made by them without knowing for a specific purpose. So the darker one is much more subduing. The lighter one is much more uplifting. They both have other plethoras of cannabinoids. You know, they've got like CBN, which is cannabinol. Okay, they've got CBG, which is cannabigerol. They've got CBC, which is cannabichrome. They've got CBDV, which is cannabidivalerian, in very small amounts, but they've got them. So when you buy a broad spectrum extract product, you're not buying a CBD oil, you're buying a broad spectrum extract oil. Now, it's very important you familiarize yourself with that certificate of analysis which comes with that product. And it's important you also familiarize yourself with what you're actually buying. Because let's say one of these works for you, which it probably will, they're fantastic extracts. It has a spread, and it's not the CBD that's working for you, it's the spread. And it's super important for you to know full well that if you are using a broad spectrum with a whole plethora of other cannabinoids, that you know what those cannabinoids are, and you know how many of them you're taking, as well as the CBD. Because people are thinking in terms of drops, and it's not a drop, it's what's actually in it. So like I said in the first week with Russ, and I'm repeating this again, he wasn't taking 5 drops, he was taking 75 milligrams. And it's so important. It's so much. It's the only thing which you guys ever learn from me is the fact that every drop means something. A milligram is an active dose of a substance, of a compound, which you are taking for a purpose. So when you're taking like 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams or 50 milligrams, you're doing it for a reason. Now, when you get satisfaction from that reason, it's imperative that you remember what you've taken in order to kind of replicate that feeling in the future. Because fact of the matter is, it's not about helping you once, it's about you finding what works for you over and over and over again. And mathematical accuracy is the only way of doing that. And that's mathematical accuracy on my side to produce the product which constantly does the same thing. But it's mathematical accuracy on your side for you taking drops and you knowing for well that I took 50 milligrams a day, it's done the job. I'm taking 60 tomorrow. Why? Because I feel worse. And enables you to almost be ahead of your problem. Because the problem is people take a drop, you don't know what it is. And you don't know what else is in there. And it's super important. Now, certificates of analysis are available on every product you buy. You contact any brand and you say, what is the certificate analysis of the extract you use in this product? They will provide it. And what you will be able to do is you'll...
Are they under obligation? They are.
Complete obligation. It's like it's a what I like to call client imposed obligation. There's no legal obligation for them to do it. Okay. But we, as users of CBD, hold these people by the throat, hold manufacturers by the throat. And if they don't show it, we can scream and shout about the fact that they're not transparent.
And if
they don't give you the information, which...
Because I'm always on the side of the consumer, who would they scream and shout to? Is my point.
Everyone. All you've got to do is go on Facebook.
Question. Who would they go? Who would they complain to?
You go on Facebook. You take a picture of the oil you've used. You say, I've contacted this brand. Do not buy from them because they do not provide transparency on their product. And guess what? The message spreads the same way that 1,600 people a week are watching me, which I don't really understand how. Okay. And also none of you say hello. So I know you're watching me, but I don't know if any of you even like me or hate me. If you hate me, please tell me. If you like me, please tell me. Just communicate with me. But basically, it's the same way that 1,600 people see this. 1,600 people will see that and they'll know not to make the same mistake you made. Because there are thousands of brands out there. We don't live in a world where you only have 1 or 2 opportunities, where you only get 1 or 2 options. You have thousands of options. So if one company doesn't do it, another company will. And transparency is a thing which a lot of the bigger brands are moving towards. Okay, it's very important that you know full well what you're taking. It's very important that us as well know that we as manufacturers know what you actually enjoy. Because there are a lot of products being made out there which I know full well can't give anyone satisfaction unless they're drinking half a bottle. But people are still selling it.
Can I ask you a difficult... I want to ask you a difficult question, and you won't be prepared for it, but it's a hard question. But I think people at these early stages, we're walking along this path gingerly, hand in hand, with me trying to keep up with you. And it's a bit like, it's a bit like my late mum trying to keep up with Usain Bolt. It's not going to happen. So here's the thing. If you take pharmaceuticals that disagree or can go, but really bad stuff can happen to you. Very bad stuff can happen to you. If you come off certain antidepressants, don't forget we deal with depression a lot on men's radio and women's radio. If you come off them suddenly, you're going to have horrible side effects. You can't just say, I feel better, boom, I'm not going to take my whatever it might be. You're going to have really bad side effects. What is the worst? And this is the question I'm asking. What is like the worst reaction or the worst that can happen from taking some CBD?
Well, I wouldn't recommend anyone who's on, let's say, extreme pharmaceutical medication for psychosis or anything like that to stop their medication and move over to CBD.
No, totally.
But let's say, for example, you're an anxiety sufferer and you take strong pharmaceuticals to combat your anxiety, and then you find that CBD actually helps you manage your anxiety. The worst case scenario, if you stop using your CBD, is you will get anxiety. And then in 3 days' time, when you restock on CBD, you should be able to counteract and rebalance out your system so your anxiety disappears. Now, I know full well that, like I've not personally, because I thank God I've never been in a position where I've been on any strong antipsychotics or any strong pharmaceutical painkillers. I've never broken a bone. Amen. Thank you, God. But I mean, basically, so I've never been in a position where I've had to wean myself off of an oxy or something like that. However, I have seen people who use morphine and then will remove themselves off morphine and use CBD. And what happens is they'll say, on days where I didn't use my morphine, I was a mess. On days where they don't use their CBD, they're not a mess. They've already got past the horribleness. Really they might have pain, but they're not going to be like, it's not like coming off of morphine.
That's exactly what I was trying to dig down to. And I didn't know how you were going to answer this. And I knew I threw it at you out of the blue. Because when I had sciatica, which I really did want to die, I've never known such pain, they put me on something called tramadol. And it says very clearly, you can't take this for more than 3 days. You get, basically, it's very addictive. Well, after 3 days, I was hooked. It was shocking. And I thought, because I'm a control freak, I thought, Russell, stop. And I just, like, after day 4 or 5, I just stopped because it's that powerful. So what I wanted to, find out really is, that's the worst case scenario with that. Did it cure the pain? Yeah. Was I hooked within 3 days? Totally. Horrible. And I
found a lot with people who use tramadol. So what tramadol does, it will basically knock you out to mask the pain.
Yeah.
All right.
It also made me high as a kite.
What CBD does, it will help you to live with the pain. So when you can live when you can live with pain and you can live with your trauma, what happens is your trauma affects you less because you live with it. You've beaten it. All right. When your trauma is being hidden under the couch and every so often it comes back out, your trauma is alive. And that's the difference. CBD users find their balance, whereas opioid users are completely suppressed. And that's the issue with opioids in today's society. And that's why America has the issues it has with like oxy and tramadols and other pharmaceutical-based compounds, which really just destroy.
Ollie, they say that, there's an old saying, when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold. We always cop whatever they've got, we get. And sometimes it's great, like color TV, air conditioning, power roofs on cars. And sometimes it's not so great, like no win, no fee lawyers, which is just, And their opioid crisis, thank God we don't have this in the UK. And it's not something we ever want to get. It is rampant. It has ripped society to pieces over there in so many sectors. So when people can be a bit sniffy about CBD, look at the opioids. Look what it's done to society.
We're quite lucky. We're quite lucky in the UK to actually have the NHS to go back to slagging them off before. Because the NHS kind of gives a little bit of control. They're the wall in between you and everything else that you want to get your hands on. Okay, so let's say, unless you have all the money in the world and you can go private, in which case you can get all the drugs you want if you want them anyway in the UK. But I mean, like the NHS is this sort of brick wall in between the average punter and the pharmaceutical world. Now in America, you don't have that. You have shops where you go in, you sit down with a GP, you walk out the shop into a pharmacy, buy what you need, and go out. And it's like there is no NHS in America. So either way, you're going to a hospital, you're paying for it. You go to one of these drug shops, you're paying for it. So either way, it's just the medicinal system out there is built to A, be capitalistic, and B, sell drugs, which is pretty mental. But it's like I'm really happy that we don't have that in the UK. I'm really happy that people I do know who screw themselves up go through the wars and don't just get handed bottles of Oxy. You know, you've got to be in severe pain for a very long time to be given a large amount of opioids on a monthly basis. And I kind of like that. I like the fact that it's not easy to get, and they almost leave us to suffer. Because to be honest with you, we're probably better off with our suffering than we are with the medication. It sounds messed up, but I mean, like the medication destroys your head and doesn't heal your back. The suffering, at least you can feel what you're going through. You know, at least you're connected to your pain. It's not a good thing, but it's better than being disconnected and still having the pain. Yes,
I got to agree. I've absolutely got to agree. Right, back to your notes, because what have we got? 4 minutes. What out of your reams of information?
I don't think so. I don't think there's enough time. I feel like we chatted a lot about banter today.
It wasn't banter. It's important. It's all relatable to why CBD is important. That's my thing. I think if we go just down the scientific route, people go, well, okay, but let's,
So I'm going to teach you guys the term. And I think we're going to broaden out on it next week. So the term which I want to say I've created, it's a term called drop tectonics. Okay. Have you ever heard that before?
No.
Drop tectonics is the understanding, all right, or the knowledge or the understanding, creating a knowledge or an understanding of how your drops are actually constructed. So what actually goes into, I use a little prop, what goes into the drop,
right?
What's actually in those, and that's drop tectonics. And the whole point is drop tectonics times amount of consumption equals client satisfaction. And it's very important I think we're going to have to do it next week now.
Okay.
We're going to discuss drop tectonics. So how you will figure out what's actually in your drop, because like I said, between milligrams, percentages, milliliters, and the broad spectrums and the isolates and everything which has a different percentage anyway. If you think you're taking 1,000 milligrams, you're probably taking 800. And if you think that you're taking, if you think 5 drops is one thing, it's probably something else. And it's quite important to figure out for you what you're actually taking. And that's basically, I don't know if we've got enough time, but we can try and talk about it today. So drop tectonics, drop tectonics, times the amount of drops is the specific dose required for an individual. Now, it's basically all mathematics, all right? The whole thing is just sums. So to work out your milligrams, it's the milliliters divided by 100, all right, in a bracket. Then you times that by a percentage. So you you times that, the mil divided by 100 times the percentage on your bottle times by 1,000 will give you the total milligrams in your bottle. And then you divide the total milligrams.
Oh, Ollie, I failed O-level maths. I had to retake it.
It's important. I'm going to put this all on Facebook because this is so important for people, because so often I hear, like, what am I actually taking? And I'm like, well, I don't know what you're taking, but you can figure it out. And it's one of the things I really want to put it out there. I might get my tech team to make it look pretty, so I can just post it on Facebook. Because
great idea. That's a good idea.
Another thing is people say, what's the active milligram per mil? All right, so that's very simple. You take the milligrams and you divide it by the mil. So you know full well that there is 600 mil in your bottle, 30 mil. So you've got 50 active milligrams per mil. Okay, 600 divided by 30.
And in 30 seconds, I need to know this
20.
why.
Do you need to know so we can understand what you're actually taking, Russ? But we'll move on to it more next week. It's very important that people know what they take when they're using CBD products.
Totally, of course it is. Otherwise, you just might as well, do anything.
I am very sorry if I've been a bit off today, guys.
You haven't been. Will you stop? I think people find you extraordinarily knowledgeable and horribly charming, which really quite annoying, to be honest with you.
I really like
annoying.
spending the day with you guys.
It's just annoying. It's just annoying. It's so charming.
Annoying is so charming.
Right. So we're going to
Charming.
see. Will you stop? Ollie Mammon, he's an amazing. He's just like one of my total favorite broadcasters now. Thank you so much for joining us, Ollie. We will be back this time next week, 6 p.m. Thursday, October the 15th, with the ABC of CBD. Stay well.